what's going on, everyone? It's Chris, and welcome back to once again another episode of Madden Maniac Previews. How's everyone doing today? It is time that we talk about last year's playoff teams. We're in the final stretch here of our previews, our final 6 episodes here, and I am right up against this, actually. It is late at night on Wednesday, which, boy, has this been a fucking day. I laugh. I won't even add on to it because if you're an NFL fan, you'll know that there's a lot of shit that happened today. But yeah, so I should be completely up to date, barring something absolutely catastrophic happening tomorrow. Which I may, but I mean it's gonna go up early before the actual football games are played. The only thing I can think of, at least with these two teams, is the Bills quarterback battle. But that's, well, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So these were the two lower record teams. The two of the earlier exits. Both lost the wild card round. Yeah, we'll go 4 p.m. I guess. I think I'm up to 4 p.m. on this. Or is it 8? I forget where I'm up to. I'll just do 4. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Yes. But yeah, I think I am up to the, rather, I'm trying to remember what I'm. You know what? Never mind. I just woke up. Also, by the way, I just took a nap. So if I sound kind of delirious during this, that's why. So I completely lost my train of thought. What I was about to talk about. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So these are the two teams with the lowest records that lost in the wild card round. We'll talk about the teams with the 2 better records tomorrow. With the Chiefs and the Rams. But for now, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. And this has been one that I've been waiting for a while. And I just want to preface this by saying, I, as someone from New York, and I've been a Giants fan mainly. I had the Jets as probably equal to the Giants for a long time, but they've kind of, I've kind of wanted to claim the Giants as essentially as my team, since that's been the team I've always been rooting for over the Jets since my childhood. And then the third team for a long time was the Bills, because the Bills were the only true New York team. So I love the Bills. I do. And if I can reassure anyone right now about this season, it would be that they have a guy in Josh Allen who, while I'm not the biggest fan of right now, is considered to be a franchise guy, and there is a bright future. And there's a few players on here that I think also serve as maybe having, that could be a bright future for this franchise as well. This year could suck for the Bills, and let's break it down. So, it doesn't even matter who starts at quarterback. Right now, A.J. McCarron is injured, so it's between Nathan Peterman and Josh Allen. I think that the team loves Nathan Peterman. Specifically, Sean McDermott loves Nathan Peterman. And I think that he's going to end up getting the start, but I think there's a lot of people that believe that Josh Allen deserves this opportunity. And I do too, in a way. But then you look at what's around him, and maybe it might be best that he sit for a little while. And I think that Nathan Peterman has had... I can't believe I'm saying this. We all shat on Nathan Peterman last year, but he had a kind of okay preseason. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great, but he was not terrible. He had some pretty solid numbers in the preseason overall. So I think it's a good choice to have him start over Josh Allen. Again, that news might be coming within the 24-hour mark. So if this is already old news by then you can ignore this. But If I am the Bills, I start Nathan Peterman, have Josh Allen on the bench. I don't know what's happening with AJ McCarron. Yeah, I mean, I think that he could be. I think that AJ McCarron might be best to find another team in the trade market. I think the backup quarterback market. I mean, we saw it today with Teddy Bridgewater being traded to the Saints. The backup quarterback market is deep, and I think AJ McCarron, someone who was kind of someone that people wanted to see as as a franchise quarterback at some point. Clearly, the NFL as a whole doesn't really agree with that notion because it took a while for him to sign somewhere. But I think that there is going to be that there might be a market for McCarron just for the fact that of his success down the stretch with the Bengals, and he ultimately wasn't really the one at fault for the ending of that Bengals Steelers game that happened, that infamous playoff game. So I don't know. There's a market there. There's also your running back situation, LaShawn McCoy, but he might be out for a little bit of time. So you have Chris Ivory to kind of fill that role for a little bit, which is okay. He has a history of being number one, but has since kind of dropped down in production. And, he can't miss tackles the way that he used to. He certainly can run it down the field, but it's just, he's not, too elusive. He gets brought down easily. So I guess, it's fine with it, keeping with that. You have Travarius Cadet behind him. But LaShawn McCoy, is essentially, he might be out for a little while because of the whole scandal that happened with his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, or something about how he, hired someone to rob someone's house. The whole thing is strange, but it might be something under the league's, policies that get him suspended. Although that has not happened yet. That's the thing. We all this time we've been waiting. That might not come in time for the season. But there's still plenty of time. But we have not seen that yet. If that's the case, they're in good hands to have McCoy. But the thing is with him too is that he's older now. He's not the quarterback that we've known him to be, in his early career. And then you look at the talent around this team, and you look at it and you're like, it's kind of cringeworthy. Because you have the wide receiver room, you have Kelvin Benjamin, and then a steep drop-off. And forget the addition of Corey Coleman. He has not shown right now that he's going to be... I don't know right now if he's even a lock for the roster, but he is not high on the depth chart, at least. Andre Holmes, Rod Streeter, Jeremy Curley. It's not a good group. Zay Jones, he's also deep in the wide receiver chart as well. So, I don't know about that. And then the stem of a lot of people's criticism for the Bills is the offensive line. I don't think I've ever seen Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap, who have been incredible athletes their entire careers. I don't think they've had such a dominant performance in their lives like they did in that Bills game. They were just destroying the line. The line was folding into itself and was just toppling on Josh Allen, and just something that was insane to see. And coincidentally, or maybe not, Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap signed contract extensions the next day. So, yeah, it's that's what you do. If you dominate, you're gonna get paid. Which, again, both of them deserve it, regardless of that game. But it was just insane. It was in a national stage too on Fox. It was a really embarrassing time for the Buffalo Bills. And it showed that it might not even matter who starts at quarterback. You have a serious fucking issue there when you lose. You lost Eric Woods, who for the longest time was your center and the probably the stronghold of this offensive line. You lose Cordy Glenn to a trade. You lose Richie Incognito, another Pro Bowler. And who you have now, Deion Dawkins, Vladimir Ducasi, Russell Bodine, John Miller, Jordan Mills, and a whole lot of fucking bad offensive line play right now. It's kind of dreadful. You also have, for the tight ends, you have Charles Clay, who has been there for a while, but he has not, he got picked up, and he had like maybe one good season with the team, and there's been a lot of questions about his performance. But he's still the starter, so it might not be too bad for him. I just think the offense right now, as it stands, is dreadful, and it might serve Josh Allen better that he sits for a little while, lets Nathan Peterman go out on the field and face these teams. I mean, think of who you faced the first game. You faced the Ravens. The Ravens are the defensive team. They're known for their defense. They're known for going after the quarterback. You're going to face that team in the first week. I am genuinely concerned for the Buffalo Bills right now on the offensive line. But then let's look at the defense, too. You have the defensive line as it stands right now. You have Trent Murphy, Kyle Williams, Star Lotulelei, and Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones. Jesus. All right, Jerry Jones is playing, guys. Jerry Hughes. So, I think about Kyle Williams and Jerry Hughes. Two were so dominant of back in 2014 when that there was that foursome for the Bills that had Mario Williams and Marcel Darius. That was such a I think that's what I loved so much about the Bills back then, because it was just so much fun to see them going after people. It was such a dominant line. I think all four of them got Pro Bowl nods. The Kyle Williams and the Jerry Hughes of yesteryear is no more, and they are both aging players. Kyle Williams is on his last legs. Many people thought that he was going to retire this offseason. He decided not to. He's staying, but he's still the starter, and Jerry Hughes is there. Now, Star Lotulelei I do like. He was with the Panthers. Never was like a dominant defensive tackle, but certainly was a big contributing factor in a lot of different Panthers games. I think that addition was good, but I'm just not a fan. And then you have these guys like Shaq Lawson and Adolphus Washington who are not starting, and it was specifically with Shaq Lawson. This guy was supposed to be your first round pick, and he's not done shit. It's been bad, and it's a shame. Then you have in the linebacking core Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, and Lorenzo Alexander. Okay, so Lorenzo Alexander in recent years has played very well. He's getting older though too, so I don't know how long his productivity is going to stay up. And then you have Tremaine Edmonds, who is very, very young. And is getting the start right now. I think it's smart that he's starting, that he's out there and he's getting the reps that to maybe develop as an NFL star. We'll see. But that's the only thing I think that I'm super confident about. But I will say this about if there's anything that this Bills team can hang its hat on. Hopefully it could be the play of Edmonds as well, but this secondary is not too bad. First you have Vontae Davis, who has had a drop off since his many Pro Bowl seasons, and obviously was cut mid-season with the Colts and never found a place, and so he's on his last legs, yes, but I think that, I know I'm using that expression a lot, but it's true. There's a lot of older players on this team, unfortunately. But him pairing up with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White, all of whom had a pretty good year. I know Jordan Poyer, that's a surprising name for some people, but he really did play well down the stretch, and he didn't get the Pro Bowl nod, but he is a big reason why that secondary played so well, and I think that Micah Hyde and Tre'Davious White very much benefited from the way that Jordan Poyer played as well. So I like that group a lot, and I think if Vontae Davis can find that old shutdown corner that he used to be, at least when he was with the Colts and with the Dolphins and all that, I think that you can see a really good secondary unit, and that's the only unit that I can really say for certain right now that could be a strong unit. But it is, you look at this team though, and it is the weakest roster, or among the weakest rosters in the NFL. And that's crazy to me, because I'm looking at this team, and they were a wild card team back last year. How does that shit happen? How did they do it? A lot of credit to Sean McDermott. I do think he's a good coach, and I think that's why they made it, and I do think they had... I'm going to still say that Tyrod Taylor played a huge part of it. I really like him, and they traded him away, obviously, to find their quarterback of the future, which is fine. And, you know, but I do think that the offensive line was better last year. You know, with all the players that did not retire, of course. You know, LaShawn McCoy was in a lot of games. You know, not playing amazing, but doing pretty well. You know, he always ends up being in the mix of, like, the top runners in the league. So I'm not gonna doubt him completely. But and then of course the secondary will also play a huge factor in that. But LaShawn McCoy may have to be set out a few games because of suspension. The offensive line loses a lot of its talent. They trade Tyrod Taylor away, bring in a rookie, and now we'll have to rely on Peterman, which the last time they relied on Peterman in the regular season, that didn't go well. Well, I mean, although didn't the Bills... There was something weird that happened with the Bills where they ended up, like, starting their, like, third-string quarterback at one point in, like, the middle of a snowstorm. The snowstorm game was amazing, by the way. That was, like, the highlight of the Bills season outside of, like, the playoffs, obviously. But, yeah, that's, that team a year ago is much different than what was here. And even that team was not filled with talent either, which my eye goes to the rest of the AFC. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? To let the Bills get in the playoffs and not have the Ravens or the Chargers in there. Why? How did that happen? But, you know, I don't think the Bills are going to get that lucky this time. And they do face a tougher schedule. They do have to they face the AFC East, the Jets and the Dolphins a few times. So that's, you know, I think those games may be leveling the playing field. But you have to face the AFC South. You have to face the AFC North. You know, you have to face the Ravens. You have to face you have to face the Chargers. And you have to face the Patriots twice. How are the Bills going to pull that shit off? I don't know. Then again, this is also a team that somehow beat the Falcons last year. I still cannot believe that. But that happened. And of course, the Dolphins also beat the Falcons. Weird shit happens. Weird shit happens in the regular season, and I enjoy it very much. But then there's just sometimes that you look back at it and you're like, what in the fucking world happened? I think this team with McDermott leading the charge is going to be should be given a few more chances. Yeah, I think that he and Brandon Beane are trying to rebuild, have been trying to rebuild. They just got really lucky last year. This roster is worse than last year for sure, but they do have some players. Like I said, Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, you definitely want to build around both of those guys. You have a secondary that works right now. Well, specifically Tre'Davious White, because he's another guy, he's a second-year player, but a young player that's going to be there for a long period of time, at least as long as you want him to be there. So that's fine. Kelvin Benjamin's still relatively young. If he can get back to his early Panther seasons, then again, perfect. You know, you have someone that can that you could throw the football to, but that's only one receiver. You have to figure out a way to rebuild this entire fucking roster. And I think if I'm the Bills, I really need to consider a tank this year. Yeah, here's my viewpoint. I think this is a good way to just to waste up the last minute here, because I'm of the theory that tanking is not. It sucks for the fan base, but I think that the fans need to understand that it is a legit strategy, and as long as they understand that, they'll be okay with what's happening, and they'll just, they'll have to deal with it. Obviously, a year after making the playoffs, you're like, well, maybe. Ideally, you would think, oh, well, this is the time that we make the leap. But I think everyone in Buffalo needs to temper their expectations, see what they had happen to them this offseason, and think, if we end up with the first overall pick, it's not going to be the end of the world. And in fact, it might even be better for the team to have that. Now, I don't know if did they give up a first round pick next year? I don't know. I don't think they did. Because I think they moved up by using draft picks that were like later in the 2017 draft, or 2018 draft, rather. I'll look into that. But I do think that they need to look at the future, not focus on this year. Because if they do, they're gonna end up being very, very disappointed. However, we are still a week away. It's actually, in fact, exactly a week from the start of the regular season. We're about 10, 11 days from the Bills starting the season in Baltimore. Why not look to trade for some people? You gotta get off. You have to get someone solid that can protect the quarterback and the offensive line. You may want to get another receiver. You may want to get. I mean, you may want to get a pass rusher of some kind. Because Tremaine Edmonds, he's gonna be in the middle, but I don't know if you can rely on the other people on the outside right now. So get someone like that. You have to look for someone. I don't see why you couldn't. So, okay, so first round pick. Okay, so the only one who traded their first round pick thus far has been New Orleans. They traded their first round pick to Green Bay, but that's good. In fact, I don't think Buffalo traded away any of their picks. That's unexpected. Huh, all right, whatever. I guess a lot of their picks was trading away a 2018 draft capital, so that's fine. That works for them. So again, this team, they need to. I think that if they really, really, really want to win this year, and they really, really think they could do that, you need to really take advantage of the next week. You need to take advantage of the draft deadline, or not the draft deadline, the trade deadline as well. When that comes around, you need to win big games. You have so many games that are huge that you need to win. So, it is an uphill climb for this team, and I would love to be proven wrong. And I say that about every single team. Because I love chaos, and I think that if the Buffalo Bills could find a way back to the playoffs and actually make a run, that would be the most chaotic thing that I could think of. And it would be beautiful. It would be just a majestic experience. But it's not happening as of right now. They need to get better in and find other people that could fill these roles. You know. And obviously the Eric Woods and Richie Incognito retirements and all that were kind of unexpected. One was an injury, one was just Incognito. You don't even know what's happening with him, but it is very obvious right now that they did not want this to happen to them. They didn't want the roster to be so depleted. But it's just the nature of the league that things just change and you have to adjust. And they haven't really adjusted well right now. They need to. They need to learn to figure it out. So the Panthers, for my halftime question, yes, the Panthers probably have a better shot at making the playoffs between the two of these teams. So let's go ahead and jump into that. A lot of former Panthers on the Bills, by the way. So that connection, I think, is very obvious between these two teams. So I don't really have to establish that. Let's start with the obvious. Let's talk off-field for a second. Jerry Richardson, the longtime owner, the guy that founded the Panthers, he's out. After sexual harassment allegations came out, it was the writing was on the wall, and he was on the road out, and in come David Tepper, someone who worked in the Steelers organization or owned a stake at least with the Steelers, and now owns the Carolina Panthers. I'm interested to see, because I haven't really been have had a real experience with any owner taking over a team and what that does for the franchise. A ton. I know Ralph Wilson died around the time that I started following the NFL, and then the Pagulas took over, but there really wasn't much changes there, and there was concern about Buffalo moving out. That ended up not happening. They made it very clear what they wanted to do. And David Tepper made it very clear what he wanted to do. That he wants to stay with Carolina. He wants to build a new stadium in the Carolinas. So he's sticking with that. But I'm curious as to see how that impacts the team on the field, if it does at all. It may not. But we will see how... We won't see it immediately, but we'll see over time how a David Tepper run organization will function compared to how Richardson's organization has functioned for some time. Let's talk about let's talk about football. So Ron Rivera remains the head coach, and he is now brought on. He has new coordinators overall, starting with Norv Turner, very successful overall offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator replacing Steve Wilkes is Eric Washington. Now I'm not gonna really talk too much about Washington. I'm gonna focus mainly on Norv Turner because Ron Rivera is the defense is his department. He knows what he's doing. Whatever. Norv Turner is gonna be basically tailoring this offense to Cam. Making it function better, because the last few years last 2 years at least, the offense was clearly lacking compared to what it was in 2015, that insane season that they had. That was I still can't get over that season. That was so incredible. I think that to this day that is the team with the best record that I've seen watching football, and also that they did not win the Super Bowl. It's crazy. But this offense has been, I think the best way that I could describe it has been kind of slow. And oftentimes you have Cam, who I think is a great quarterback, but he has so many inaccuracy issues, and they were made very clear, especially down the stretch, that it was not working out for this team, and it ended up costing them. But I mean, it's not like they didn't have playmakers though, because you had the duo Jonathan Stewart and and Christian McCaffrey. You had a good set of wide receivers, not great but good enough. But it just there was so much lacking overall. So what happened this offseason? How did they change that? Of course, bring in North Turner, who will again make adjustments. I think will make Cam overall more comfortable in playing the game, and will make sure that his talents are used greatly. And I think we'll see a great showcase of that against the Cowboys, who have a pretty decent defensive unit. We'll see how that functions, especially at home. Will be fun to see how they do. Let's talk about the running backs now. So Christian McCaffrey is now going to be taking the bulk of the carries. He's going to be the main back. Which totally makes sense as for him being a first-round draft pick. I am still concerned about him being a every down back. I think that he still has some troubles with trying to run through people and trying to play like a smash mouth type running back, which is sometimes needed. We have to run in between the tackles instead of trying to go out wide and whatever. He certainly is. We've known him since college being such a great. Whenever the ball's in his hands and he's in relatively open space, that you can't catch him. He's insane, and he's always been insane of an athlete. But I think that he needs some time to grow in that department. In come C.J. Anderson, who probably will not get a lot of snaps. And in fact, I think he's getting. I think he might even be below I think he might be the third string at this point. But I do still like him as a running back, and I think it's going to be important to get the team to get him in there and that way you can have someone that's going to be able to run through the tackles, because I think he's very good at that. He's not as good as the pass catching guy, and I think to me that's what Christian McCaffrey is great at. So I think you do have a good 1-2 punch, very similar to what you had last year with Jonathan Stewart. Only this year they are relying more on McCaffrey. I am still a little hesitant on McCaffrey overall, but I'm hoped to be proved wrong as the season goes on. Let's talk about the wide receivers, because the big first round draft pick for this team was DJ Moore out of Maryland. So he comes over, and he's going to be right now in the back behind Torrey Smith, who came over from Philadelphia. Torrey Smith had a pretty good year. That team was able to use its weapons very well, the Eagles, and Torrey Smith was a very good factor in it. He'll be opposite Devin Funchess, who's been part of the team for past few seasons. Neither of them are amazing wide receivers. Not necessarily a fan of calling either one a wide receiver one, but that's gonna be their spot for now. DJ Moore is gonna have time to develop behind them. He's gonna be out on the field a lot, and he's gonna be used. And I think maybe as the season goes on, if he proves, because he's definitely a playmaker, I think he'll maybe prove, all right, this kid could be the wide receiver one. He can probably go the distance, being the front of this receiving core. So that's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to DJ Moore, because I remember watching him at Maryland last year, a few games that he was in, that he definitely made a statement while he was there. That he was just a really, really good player. So that it's been so long since they've had such a really good wide receiver since Steve Smith, and DJ Moore was praised up and down by Steve Smith on draft night. So it's kind of fitting that legend's basically endorsing his replacement at this point. So there you go. Is this gonna be pylon cam again? What's happening? I don't know what's. Okay, all right. I don't know what this game is doing. I'm giving up. So let's talk offensive line. Some players going away. I think the biggest name probably being Andrew Norwell, no longer with the team. But Ryan Khalil, he's at center. This might be his last season. I think he even announced that this is his last season. So make it count, Panthers. And so right now, replacing Andrew Norwell is going to be Amini Silatolu, who I have not seen a ton of. But he is a 2012 draft pick. I think this is probably the first time that he's starting, so we'll see how he does. Matt Khalil, who's struggled at left tackle. Trey Turner, who's done pretty well at right guard. And of course, they lost Darrell Williams to injury. So right now, Taylor Madden is at right tackle. So that offensive line is a bit beat up, not very deep. And that would be a concern right now. But Cam he is able to use his legs for the most part. And he's a big guy, hard to bring him down. Although, for some reason, he does enjoy flipping and then getting flipped and then getting a black eye. Everyone worried that he has like a concussion or that he has like a broken neck, and that was really scary to watch. That was the third preseason game. Hopefully he'll be okay for this season and that he will not be injured, because that would suck. He doesn't really have anyone solid behind him. Garrett Gilbert and Taylor Haneke and Kyle Allen. That please save us. Anyone. Get someone get AJ McCarron to the Panthers at least. I would rather watch AJ McCarron than any of those guys, please. Or Mike Lennon even. I don't know. Someone that's, or Josh Dobbs. I know Josh Dobbs is also on the market. Get him there, please. Let's talk defense. This has always been the strongest unit of this team. I've always enjoyed the defense, and this year's not much different. You still have Luke Kuechly, you still have Thomas Davis, although Thomas Davis is going to be out for a few games because of the PED suspension, one that he says that he didn't realize he took the PED, and this was supposedly going to be his last season, but he's since backtracked on that, because I think the suspension kind of like ruined it. He was like, I think I want to play another year. I want to play a full season, so I can't blame him. So, and Shaq Thompson, man, he's growing up, and I think he's really starting to become a really good linebacker as well. A big part of the offense, big part of the defense. So, I freaking love that linebacking core. And then you look at the defensive line. Julius Peppers, dude's playing very well still. For being in the league for almost 15, 16 years. Yeah, he's still doing pretty well. Dontari Poe I still like. I mean, he's bouncing around teams now, but he's still an impact, at least on the defensive line. And, of course, K'Wan Short is very good. And Mario Addison's right now the right defensive end, who I did like. I have liked his play as well. I think the concern is going to be the secondary. You know, if we could move if we could move the front seven of the Panthers and combine that with the Bills secondary, that's a pretty good fucking defense. Someone needs to make that adjustment. Someone needs to make that trade. You guys trade all the time, Panthers, Bills. Let's fucking make it happen. Make one of these units actually like superior. Something happen, please. Bills trade them all away for draft picks. Trade your whole secondary to them. Get draft picks and you prepare for the future. No, I'm kidding. But the James Bradbury is your left cornerback. Denoris Cersei is your your strong safety rather. I almost said shortstop. Free safety Mike Adams and right cornerback Kevin Seymour. I don't like any of them like a lot. Bradbury's made some plays. Cersei has been in it before. Mike Adams, he's had a history of being a Pro Bowler. He had a pretty good year last year. I just have a lot of questions, and I think that that still needs to be addressed. Because I don't think a high draft pick has been done. I mean, they did get Dante Jackson and Rashawn Golden in the drafts. I think there's a real possibility that one of those guys is starting by mid-season. I just don't think this is a very deep group. You have Captain Mullerlin as well, who was a Panther, went to other teams and has come back. But I mean, I don't really see them starting him. I'm just worried about the secondary. But hey, look, with the front seven, and them getting after the quarterback or shutting down the running back, that is going to help the secondary, and it has helped the secondary loads. And it makes that defense still work very, very well. So I'm not incredibly concerned for this team. I think that they are going. I think that defense is gonna balance out well with wherever North Turner is cooking on offense. And the Panthers should do well this year. I don't think this is gonna be a down year, but I'm also not like extremely high on the Panthers either. I have just overall like what I saw last year and now what they've kind of added on to this year. I haven't seen like this huge growth in this team. I think a lot of their success relies on whether or not Christian McCaffrey really becomes a running back first, like a number one running back. He's gonna get a load of carries, and he is gonna probably prove me wrong in terms of his ability to be a every down back. And I'm totally fine with that. I really like McCaffrey. I've liked him since he was at Stanford. But it's going to rely on McCaffrey. It's going to rely on the growth of DJ Moore as the season goes on. It's going to rely on the health of the defense and Cam Newton and the offensive line depth. There are a lot of factors, but I think that it's Cam, the front seven, Christian McCaffrey, and DJ Moore, all of which are going to be huge factors. And if all of them can really work well together, I think that a lot of the other things that are happening with this team will end up being forgotten, or if not forgotten, then there won't be as much concern for this team making it to the playoffs. So that's that. But I would be concerned as well with this team because they are, as things stand, in the toughest division, or one of the toughest divisions in the football right now, because they have to face the Saints and they have to face the Falcons twice. But they're in a tough conference too. It's kind of top heavy because you have the Saints and the Falcons, you have the Eagles, you have the Rams, and you have both the Vikings and the Packers. And right there, if you don't include the Panthers in that mix, that's 6 teams. I think all 6 of those teams have a good shot, if you put them out on the field, have a good shot being the Panthers. And that would be very concerning. So the Panthers, they're on the fringe of this playoff bubble going into this year, and they have to prove they need to have this amazing breakout year. Like, every year, it seems like, at least in the last few years, I've seen like an NFC team all of a sudden have this amazing breakout season that everyone's just like amazed at what's happening. 2015 was the Panthers, 2016 was the Falcons, 2017 was the Eagles. All of them ended up going to the Super Bowl. One of them won the Super Bowl, which was the Eagles. But the Panthers, I'm sure they want to return to that. I'm sure they want to go back to that 2015 spirit that once was there. And I don't know, it could be possible. They did it in 2015 when there was not like a ton of hope riding on that roster. And they can do it again. So but I do think they have an uphill climb. They have to face the NFC East as well. They have to face the Eagles. Luckily, that division's not too deep. They do have to face the AFC North. They have to face the Steelers, the Ravens, and improved Bengals team a little bit. I don't think you have to worry too much about them. You probably won't have to worry about the Browns either, although I do think that team's a little bit more talented than last year. You have to face, but you have to face the Lions as well. Again, not terribly difficult, but they're an improved team. And you have to face the Seahawks, which that's not too bad either. So I think that if you can get through your division, win some of those games against the Saints and Falcons, specifically, you have to beat the Buccaneers. I mean, the Buccaneers, they're good. I think they have a good roster overall too, but I want to beat them. Because if they're not the last place team, you have a very good chance of being that last place team. Beat the Buccaneers, sweep them, at least win one against the Falcons and one against the Saints, and then take advantage of a relatively not too bad schedule. Obviously the Steelers, the Ravens, the Eagles are going to be difficult, but overall the rest of the schedule is not. They're all winnable games. Even the hard ones are winnable games. You never know. I do have some faith in the Panthers if they can rekindle what they had back then. This team could be really special, but I don't really know that I don't even know what that even means for them. A lot has to go their way. And especially in the face of new ownership, they need to have a year where they can be like, look, the franchise is going in the right direction. It is like you have to believe us. It's going in the right direction. We're making improvements, and I think that we have a roster that can compete for a Super Bowl. You have to prove that this year to David Tepper, because he might just be like, well, I have my guys in my head that could work really well with this franchise. I think I'd rather rely on them. I'm a little. I feel like they should. They're relying on the general manager right now, whose name I'm losing right now. But he replaced Dave Gettleman and as an interim, and then became full-time general manager. I'm curious if because he used to be the general manager of the Panthers, got fired, and then was brought back. I'm wondering if he will be the first one to go of this team. If, let's say, if things go awry, things don't work out, I'm curious as to see, if he will be targeted, and then they'll get a new general manager. David Tepper would hopefully work with Ron Rivera in finding that. Or if Ron Rivera would go. I don't know. But I don't think this is a losing team, though. I think they're going to at least be average, above average record. And if things really go their way, they'll be close to. They'll get a wild card spot and maybe even a division championship. But the Saints and Falcons, they have to topple them down. You have to topple them. That's the ticket. That is the ingredient to success, right there. So that is that. Finished my conversation right in time. That was a good. I kind of fit everything in where I needed to for that. That worked out perfectly. I think that that's interesting. I don't think I've seen this before. Them posing for the camera and picture. That's funny. I don't think if it has happened on this episode, I've just not paid attention till now. That's pretty good. And this should be a concern for the Panthers fans. The Bills just beat your ass. No, I'm kidding. But I hope you guys enjoy the preseason stuff tonight. I know it's not anything interesting. I mean, if you give a shit about watching backups, winning jobs, I mean, that's what it really comes down to. I'm interested in it. I mean, I'm curious to see if there's a guy that has like a breakout game and then secures a spot, like, because those are good feel good stories. I mean, of course, I'm gonna be keeping an eye on the Browns because of Hard Knocks, because you know a lot of the guys that are competing for roster spots, so pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, but I am also gonna be more so paying attention to college football starting tomorrow as well. Some good games of the docket, not anything incredible, but pretty good. So. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Be good to one another, be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.